All right. Today, we're going to dive into the story of one of the most mysterious and successful day traders of all time. We're talking about a reclusive Japanese legend known only as BNF, a guy who turned a tiny bit of cash into an absolute fortune, basically by treating the market like a game. And his whole philosophy, his whole secret, really starts with this totally bizarre way of looking at money.
I mean, think about that for a second. For most of us, right, seeing the actual cash is the whole point. But for BNF, it was a distraction. And this quote, it gets right to the heart of his genius. See, he wasn't driven by fancy cars or a big house. For him, trading was a pure, high-stakes game. And looking at piles of physical money, that just introduced fear. It clouded his judgment and made him a worse player.
So, where does a mindset like that even come from? Well, you might be picturing some slick Wall Street type, but you'd be way off. Our story starts in a tiny little apartment in Japan. Inside, there's just a regular college kid living on a diet of cup ramen and anime, totally invisible to the rest of the world. So his whole journey kicks off back in 1998. He's watching TV and sees this documentary about a wild American speculator named Victor Niederhofer, and something just clicks. It wasn't about the cash, it was the thrill of the game. So for the next 2 years, he gets to work. He's grinding at part-time jobs, saving every single yen, and spending literally every spare moment just glued to stock charts, studying them obsessively. Finally, in 2000, he saved up $16,000 and he's ready to jump into the arena.
And you know, just to show you how dedicated he was, he even came up with his screen name, BNF, as a little tribute. It's basically a mashup of the letters from his hero's name, Victor Niederhofer, a direct nod to the guy who started it all for him.
Okay, so he's ready to go. But talk about bad timing. He jumps into the market in 2000. This is right after Japan's whole lost decade, and at the exact moment the global dot-com bubble was bursting. I mean, it was an absolute bloodbath out there. The entire market was just drowning in fear.
And in that environment, what was everyone doing? They were selling, panicking, but not BNF. He went the other way. He developed this contrarian strategy. He basically looked around and thought, okay, the biggest emotion in the market right now is fear, so I'm going to bet on the fear. He started hunting for stocks that people were just dumping way too aggressively, figuring they had to bounce back, even just for a little bit.
Now, this wasn't just some gut feeling, right? He developed a very specific technical rule for himself. In his own words, he was looking for stocks that had dropped a certain percentage away from their recent average price. To get specific, he was watching the 25-day moving average. For him, that deviation was the magic signal. It told him that fear had pushed a stock way too far, way too fast.
But here's where his real genius kicks in. It's all in the details. He pretty quickly figured out that a one-size-fits-all approach just wasn't going to cut it. He actually analyzed his losses and discovered that different sectors of the market have their own unique, personalities. IT stocks didn't move the same way service stocks did. So he started tailoring his targets for each sector, creating these custom rules and developing this incredible intuitive feel for their specific rhythms.
And this disciplined, completely self-taught strategy, it worked. Oh boy, did it work. By the end of 2002, we're talking just 2 years after he started, this quiet college kid living on cup ramen had turned his $16,000 into a cool $1 million. Absolutely staggering.
So at this point, he is the undisputed master of the bear market. But then, something kind of tragic, at least for him, happens. The world economy starts to recover. A massive global bull run kicks off. And all that fear he'd gotten so good at profiting from, poof, it was gone, replaced by optimism. Suddenly, his entire strategy was useless. He had a choice, adapt or lose it all. And this is what makes him so brilliant. Instead of stubbornly trying to fight the new trend, he just completely flipped his logic. It's so smart. In the bear market, he bet against fear. So now, in the bull market, he decided to bet on optimism. He started looking for these big, solid, core companies that were kind of lagging behind the big market rally, bought them, and just rode the wave for a few days or weeks until they caught up with everyone else.
And guess what? This new strategy worked too, growing his account by millions more. But then comes December 2005. And a single, absolutely chaotic event is about to take him from being this anonymous online trader and turn him into a national icon. And it all started with the IPO of a company you've probably never heard of, JCOM Holdings.
So it's the very first day this company is trading, and some poor trader at a huge securities firm makes probably one of the worst typos in financial history.
The order was to sell one share for 610,000 yen. What he actually entered was an order to sell 610,000 shares for just 1 yen each. This fat finger error just completely flooded the market, the stock went into an absolute nosedive, and it was pure, unfiltered panic.
So, while literally everyone else is panicking, totally confused, running for the hills, BNS sees this for exactly what it is, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And he doesn't hesitate, he acts instantly, decisively, and buys 7,100 shares right at the absolute bottom. Now get this, he risked almost half of his entire fortune on this one single chaotic trade. That's conviction.
He held his nerve while the chaos swirled, and eventually, trading was halted. The firm that made the mistake, Mizuho Securities, was forced to buy back all those shares. BNF settled with them at a wildly inflated price and walked away with a profit of around 2 billion yen from a single trade. At the time, that was about 20 million US dollars. And just like that, poof, he was famous. Overnight, news outlets were banging down his door for interviews, billionaires wanted to have dinner with him. This quiet, reclusive trader was suddenly a household name across Japan, known everywhere as the J-Com man. But here's the thing about BNF. He rejected all of it. The fame, the fortune, he hated the attention. He just wanted his simple life back, trading from his bedroom. And you know what? It's a good thing he stayed focused because a storm was brewing on the horizon that was going to make the J-Com panic look like a little ripple. I'm talking, of course, about the 2008 global financial crisis.
And this crisis, this is where BNF takes his first major hit. He sees Lehman Brothers stock absolutely plummeting, and he thinks, okay, time for my rebound strategy. He plows $6.5 million into it. But he made a critical mistake. He broke his own golden rule. He didn't understand the US market, not like he knew the Japanese market anyway. He got overconfident and his entire $6.5 million investment went to zero. Overnight.
And the pain didn't stop there. As the crisis went global and hit Japan, even his old, trusted strategies started to fail him. For the very first time in his career, he was on a serious losing streak. And it made everyone, probably even himself, wonder, had the J-Com man finally lost his touch? Was the magic gone?
But in that moment of crisis, right when he was at his lowest, BNF had this incredibly profound realization. He figured it out. His success wasn't some magic formula. It was his discipline. It was his process of intense study and, maybe most importantly, his almost superhuman ability to just tune out all the noise, the panic, the hype, and just trust his own analysis. So, what did he do? Did he retreat? Nope. He did the exact opposite. He went back to basics, back to his core principles. He recalculated all of his deviation targets for this new, terrifying market reality, and he doubled down, big time. As the Japanese market kept crashing, he went on an unbelievable buying spree, building a massive position of over $64 million, spread across 90 of the absolute hardest-hit companies.
And his discipline, it paid off. The market eventually turned, it rebounded, and that colossal bet he made, it netted him a profit of over $12 million. He had faced the final boss, the ultimate test, and he didn't just survive. He proved that his methods were stronger than ever. It was the trade that reaffirmed his godlike status among traders.
And that really leaves us with the big question at the end of all this, doesn't it? We've seen his clever strategies, right? The ones for bear markets, the ones for bull markets. But was that the real secret sauce, the specific formulas? Or was his true superpower something psychological? Was it that unshakable discipline to create his own system, stick to it no matter what, and have the ability to completely ignore the screaming chaos and emotion of the crowd? What do you think?